But who cares? Call it a fee, call it tax, call it extra charge, call it anything. You're good. Yeah. But it sounds better.
Well, Sam stepped out for a moment, so I meant.
Why surcharge?
As soon as it hit 4:30.
Yeah, okay.
Surcharges never go away either.
No.
Fuel surcharges, they go up, they go down, they never go away. Now there's tariff surcharges.
You should see how many extra charges are in there. I noticed he didn't come over and help me pump off my basement when the sewer backed up. 2 foot. I was too busy doing mine. Okay. Actually, I went to 2 other people.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this council meeting, and I'd like to begin by asking you to join me if you're able to and stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then if we could have a roll call, please.
Brad Hand.
Here.
Ken Snyder.
Here.
Steve Hamel.
Here.
Chantal Ostrov. Here. Tom Eggers.
Here. Next item up is the approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion for that.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ostrov. Aye. Snyder.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Hand.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
All right, next item is the public forum. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council at this time? I do have one written letter from Marvin Reeson regarding the idea of a storm sewer fee, and he has in parentheses tax. Number one, it is not a fee, it is a tax. Calling it a fee, you would be dishonest. Number two, you already have enough money to spend. Number three, the city should be looking at ways to reduce our taxes, not increase them. If you need help, there are some of us willing to help you. And number four, this tax would be nothing less than a big money grab. We'll enter that into the record. I don't have that. Okay. Just hit my refresh here. There also is a comment from Travis Byert regarding electric scooters. And he says, hi Sam, I've been seeing a lot of children riding on electric scooters around town recently. Some of the scooters have been riding on the sidewalk, but a lot of them have been riding on the streets. No helmets on any of the children that I have seen. I've had a couple of occasions where I am driving my truck around town and these scooters are matching my speed of the truck and, quotes, tailgating me. I've seen a lot of kids just pull out into the streets without looking for cars and have almost seen a couple of kids get hit by vehicles. You may or may not know I work for TK Lawn Service, and if a kid pulls out into the middle of the street on an electric scooter, I would not have enough time or distance to stop a truck and trailer that is fully weighted. This was 15 years ago, but when I was in middle school, everyone had electric scooters. Then our parents said that the city of Sheldon said we could not ride them at all anymore. I don't know if there's a rule in place about it or some verbiage somewhere. I would really appreciate it if you could bring this up at the next council meeting. If you have questions for me, feel free to reach me. And he lists his number. And let me know you got this message. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Travis Byert. Mike, I'll let you look into if there is an ordinance addressing electric scooters. I don't know that there were electric scooters at that time, but scooters in general, perhaps. If you could let us know on that. Do you have a copy of that? Okay, yep, okay, very good. All right, then we'll move on then to the consent agenda. I'll take approval for that, a motion for approving that.
So move.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Ostrop. Aye. Eggers.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
All right, there is no old business, so our next item is the oath of office for our newest police officer, Harry Peterson. Meet you there. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Harry Peterson.
I, Harry Peterson,
Sorry.
no, you're good.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will uphold all the laws
that I will uphold all the laws
of the Constitution of the United States,
of the Constitution of the United States,
the state of Iowa,
the state of Iowa,
and the city of Sheldon.
and the city of Sheldon.
I will faithfully and impartially,
I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
for the city of Sheldon, Iowa,
for the city of Sheldon, Iowa,
as now or hereafter
as
required by
now,
law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
All right, second item under new business is the second reading of the ordinance amendments regarding water. I'd like to open the public comment period for that at this time. Okay, no one's coming, so we'll consider a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
What? It's not a hearing.
What's that?
It's not a hearing.
Oh, it's just a reading, you're right. Right.
Sorry.
I just added a public comment hearing, or comment period to help out.
Okay, very good. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. All right. Then I'd like to open the reading of the second reading of the ordinance regarding the sewer. Any public comments regarding that? We did have that from Marv regarding the sewer, which I've read.
But we need to approve the second reading or whatever you're going to do with the water before you move on to the...
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Sorry.
I'll make the motion to move it to third reading.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ostrop. Aye. Eggers.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on now to the second reading of the ordinance amendments regarding the sewer. And there were any public comments? None? So then we need a motion for that.
Move that we move it on to third reading.
Okay.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Ostrop. Aye. Eggers.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
And then the ordinance, open the reading, public comment regarding the reading of the ordinance implementing stormwater fees. None? Motion for that.
We move to the third reading.
Okay?
I have a question. I was asked by somebody, how much that would generate in a year, revenue? Do we have an idea, approximate?
Yeah, I'm estimating around $100,000.
Okay.
And just for reference, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but just for reference, the water utility generates about $1.9 million, and the sanitary sewer utility generates about $1.7 million.
So Todd, what's the scope of work that these funds will cover? How many dollars worth of repair do we know of that's waiting to be done on sewer?
Well, we
On
have...
wastewater, excuse me.
Yeah, so for sanitary sewer, or excuse me, for storm sewer. As you know, in the upcoming fiscal year, we have about $800,000 of projects listed. Not to mention, we've been averaging $40,000 to $50,000 a year just in general maintenance that's been paid for out of RUT. We have a project in the 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 4th, 5th Street area that needs about $100,000 of attention in basins, in catch basin repairs. And that's not a TIF eligible area. So it's those areas that these funds will come in very handy. I would anticipate us attempting to increase our yearly maintenance amount some, but yet trying to leave hopefully $20,000 to $40,000 a year so you can build a little bit of a balance, so that if you have a larger project that needs some funds, that's going to be a slow go at that amount of money, but at least if you can get a couple $100,000 in there and you have a little bigger project, you have something.
Is it fair to say that the city has some risk with the old infrastructure that could cause a fairly large project without our knowledge at this point?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Couple
thank
of
you.
questions that I've been talking to businessmen, I've been talking to retirees, I've been talking to, I tried to get it well-rounded. One thing, and this is my words, as I summarize what they were saying, we're being nickel and dimed to death with taxes, and they all use the word tax. And but we've been nickel and dime to death, and how much is enough? And that is true. I mean, it's only $3, but we've been $3. You look at it over the years, we've added here, and I heard that 30 years ago on a project. Oh, it's only a couple of dollars a month. Well, that's 30 years, we're still paying that. It just keeps adding. When I moved here, I figured something, 5% was our sales tax. It's 7%. Okay, just a few dollars here and there, it added on. And I kind of have to agree, you know, from a public citizen, how much is enough on that? And nothing to get you guys, I know where you're coming from. I see your end of it, but I'm hearing the other end of it, and I'm feeling it too. And just put it in the figures, did some adding, okay? Now, this is not government adding, I'm just a retired preacher, what do I know about finances? But I came with Sheldon with nothing, I've done pretty well. 5%, I just made a purchase, exactly $2,500 this past week. 5% was $125 tax. Now it's $175. That's more than just a little bit, you know, and you keep adding that up. And so to answer their question, I would like for you to answer their questions to me, how much is enough? And how much more if we keep adding and keep adding, you go through and look at the taxes everybody's paying, it's not, we're giving you And I agree with it 100%, the increase. I realize why we did that in the other. But this is just what's been brought to me by businessmen downtown and retirees living on a fixed income.
Ken, I think
And
I
a retired
mentioned,
guy here too.
Ken, I think I mentioned to you in February when this was pitched at the budget hearing that there's never a good time to bring on a new fee, right? This is something that's been stewing internally for a lot of years, and we've chosen to get by. Council can choose to approve this or not approve this. We as staff are telling you that we think it is a necessary fee. We think it is necessary because there is a lot of aging infrastructure out there that needs repaired. If we don't repair that infrastructure, it will cause issues for our citizens. It'll cause problems for our citizens. The next time we get a large rain and the stormwater doesn't go away and it floods their yard and floods their basement, well, the answer would be, sorry, I didn't have the money to fix it. Is $100,000 going to fix that? No, we're going to have to continue to support it with other areas and other funds. To answer your question about when is it enough and prices going up, I understand that. Construction costs have gone up substantially. If I use a good example of a project that's currently under construction, when I first brought the Western Avenue project to you, it was a $2.5 million project. We got it out to bid and we were happy with $4 million. Remember, because it could have been 4.7 or 4.8 was the estimate. That's the cost that construction has gone up. Pipe, fittings, concrete, all of that has went up, and we just can't continue to do it on the same dollars. If you choose not to approve the stormwater fee, we'll have to make cuts somewhere, and you will get to help us make those cuts.
Good. And well, it's what I have to do in my personal budget too. This is another thing that was presented. I want you to answer for me. Not for me, but
Sure.
yeah, everything is going up. But so have our taxes. Wages goes up, which means more taxes being paid. Housing projects, you know.
So
You have inflation there, so automatically when there's a percentage being paid, you have an automatic increase. You see what they're saying? I hope
Ken,
I'm saying that right.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from, but Ken, as a city council member and as somebody who's went through a couple budget processes, you know that we're currently not paying for any stormwater fees out of general funds. And the basis check dollars go into the general fund. Could you pay for stormwater out of general fund? Absolutely. It would mean cuts someplace else then. So there again, you have that choice. We as staff don't recommend that, but it's not our call.
Sam, did you want to comment? Are you done, Ken? Sorry.
No, this is what my collection, I should have written it down. I think it's everything that has been brought to me by, not radical people either, I went specifically to some different businessmen who have employees who have different type of things. And so I just got a collection, and that's, in essence, the questions they asked me.
Brad, did you have something?
Nope, I didn't have anything.
I have just a couple of comments. So Todd and I went through some of the numbers, and $1,260,000 in TIF funds just in the current fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year. So prior to that, we weren't spending a whole lot out of, actually $150,000 of that is 2 fiscal years ago, but for the most part, we weren't spending a whole lot out of TIF for stormwater projects, but we $1.26 million is fairly significant. Road use tax, $316,000 over the last 4 years, and road use tax can probably handle that less well than what TIF can handle this current expense. But when you look at some of the other needs coming up with TIF, and you look at the urban renewal plan that we adopted last year, 2 years ago, or last year, there are a lot of needs vying for those TIF dollars, and you also have the need to release TIF, and you also have legislative pressures every year, including a very close discussion in the current legislative session to significantly change how the TIF dollars are allocated. So could you not do this? you could. And you could probably, it would probably work for another year, maybe two. But then if the funding mechanisms change in Des Moines, and we need to find a funding source like we did for the beetle, or the ash borer, where we had no funding source, we had to go to TIF, and the TIF changes. You know, one of the options is that, and you and I have talked about this, is if you look at the map of Sheldon, the whole core of the community where a lot of these stormwater issues are, is not in urban renewal area. What would the reaction be if we would propose putting that whole area from Washington Avenue to downtown and from 18 to 11th Street, all of it in the urban renewal area? Because you could. You wouldn't collect increment for a while, because that area isn't growing as fast in terms of its assessments, but it would allow you to spend other TIF dollars on that area in the middle. But then it would leave less money for, we were just talking a few weeks ago about a significant plan for City Park and for Hills Park, and then, you know, there's ongoing discussions with the pavilion. So Todd and I won't be offended at all. This is a tough decision for you if you decide not to do this. We understand that this is a difficult walk around the lantern, but also know that we've been using the existing dollars that we have, but that well, I'm not sure if you have other priorities, it's going to make that more difficult. So we're just trying to find a way to help out. So,
as an example, we've been backfilling we've been backfilling rut with a lot of other project funds over the last number of years. And that's kind of a rabbit we've continued to pull out of our hat, but we only have so many rabbits or so many hats to pull that out of, right? So if that goes away, that's going to reduce the ability to pull more out of rut. It's just another reason why I think it makes sense. Plus, I think it makes sense because I'd like to keep the community as a good operational condition as we can. And unfortunately, that takes a lot of money.
I don't log into it very often, but I have a city YouTube account that there was a video that was uploaded from last year from the flooding. And if you look at what happened last year and how well we fared, but there's a fair number of issues that have come out of that that still need to be addressed, mainly in the older part of town.
Yeah, and I guess my last comment would be this, and it's really not important because Sheldon and the other towns are the other towns, but there are plenty of other communities that have stormwater feeds. I had somebody comment, maybe it's time to move out of town. My response was, do some research before you move, because you might be surprised that a lot of our neighbors already have this fee, and it's larger than the one we're proposing.
One more question that was asked. Is this, how long does this, you plan to do this? Is this an ongoing forever tax like everything else, or is it a temporary? And then if it is, would you put it in writing?
Well, that's the beauty of adopting a stormwater ordinance and not just taking the funds from someplace else. The funds are sequestered for stormwater use only. So I don't see the fee going away anytime soon if you adopt it. But it would sit there and bank money to be used for future stormwater use.
And then a future council could always bring it up and.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it could be voted out
again,
at some point, absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
See, I'd rather him answer it like this than me try to go.
Ken, if you adopt this and you think in 5 years, I'm going to recommend that we take away the stormwater fee, you'd be mistaken.
Okay. You know, that's kind of what I was thinking anyway. But I've never seen the tax go away.
Yeah.
Or a fee, I'm sorry.
It's a utility. To me, in my mind, you can't think of our stormwater system any different than you do our water and sewer system. They are a needed function of our community, just like the roads are, the sewer system, the water system is. And we currently don't have a revenue generator for that system, taking from other areas.
Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, that's what's presented, so now we know the rest of the story. Appreciate what you're doing too.
Yeah, no problem.
By the way, we appreciate what you did through that flood time.
Yeah.
Are you recovered yet?
Me?
Are you recovered
Yeah.
from the flood time?
I'll never be normal, Ken, you know that.
Thank you, though, Todd.
Yeah.
I think, and when I think back to the discussion we had during budget and the needs that were presented, and it was not an easy decision, but the longer I sat listening to Todd and the rationale for it, it was kind of, I don't want to do it, but we have to do it. That's, infrastructure is aging. I think the wake-up call came last June when all kinds of stuff was being done just to try to get by. And it was a significant event. We don't have that every summer. But the reality is, this town has very old piping, in this part of town especially. And we can't just keep taking the baling wire and bubble gum approach to fix this stuff. We've got to have funds to do it. And so to me, it was the right decision. It costs something, but yes, it's a service that's being provided, and everybody benefits from it. So, any other comments? All right. We need a second for that motion, if I recall correctly. Could you read the motion again, just to refresh our memories?
To pass the sewer rate or sewer, stormwater ordinance onto a third reading.
Support.
All right, we have support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Ostrov. Aye. Kent.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Snyder.
All right.
Okay. Next item is the first reading of the ordinance amending provisions pertaining to fireworks.
Don't think we have much choice on that one. It's coming down from the state.
Yep. Any comments you want to make, Sam?
No, if you don't mind, it would help us if you would approve first and then have a separate motion to waive second and third. And just kind of wrap this one up so that it's in effect by then, if you don't mind. Otherwise, you do have time for a second reading.
Like I said, we don't have much choice. It's coming down from the state.
And Mike has reviewed it, so we know it's good.
We've had no comments to that effect either, have we? Is there anyone here wishing to address that, I guess, speak to that ordinance?
I'll make the motion to approve first reading.
Support. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Ostrov. Aye. Eggers.
Aye.
And then the second part of that, do we want to waive second and third?
Yes, I would move to waive the second and third.
Okay.
No choice.
Is there support for that?
I'll support.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Kent.
Aye.
Ostrov. Aye. Snyder.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to item F. Consider a request for lot split and sale of the former 13th Avenue north of 14th Street. Any comments on that?
Yeah, are Joe or Sandy here? Okay.
Tell you, you drive by there, and they've done an awesome job of cleaning that up. So,
Great.
it's very nice, and it's a good deal.
And this is an example of two neighbors really working well together. If you look at the survey, it's not an even lot split. Todd and I had encouraged the two neighbors to take a look at where the line would go relative to the tree line, and Joe agreed to take on the whole row of trees. So if you look at the survey, it's not quite an even split, and Sandy was okay with that, but that's going to help both properties down the road, so you don't have that to be quite as complicated of a factor. And there were not any other proposals. This will come back. Does it need a hearing or just a couple of resolutions, Micah, do you know?
It'll require a resolution to set a hearing, and then a resolution to approve.
Right, so this is just, starts the ball rolling and establishes what the cost will be for the adjacent property owners. still a pretty good deal for them.
So that, need a motion for anything at this point then?
You can offer a motion to approve the request subject to the,
The request of the February.
subject to the hearing process. Sure.
Okay. Everyone heard that, I'm assuming?
I'll make that a motion.
I've got it on the agenda to proceed subject to.
Okay. Did you say you're making a motion?
Yep.
Okay, do we have support?
Support.
Any further discussion?
Just a question, Board of Adjustments, how does that fit in on this? Doesn't things, when it comes to land and zoning and stuff like that, go through the Board of Adjustments?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tom. So the land we're talking about isn't a conventional lot, like
Okay.
within a subdivision.
Okay.
It was previously platted as a public street. And once upon a time, a long, long time ago, it was vacated,
Okay,
but it's basically no
so
person's
it's really a
land right now.
city issue then?
Yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Okay,
No
any
other questions?
Okay, anyone else? Roll call, please.
Eggers?
Aye.
Hunt?
Aye.
Ostrov? Aye. Himmel?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye. All right. Moving on to consider the request for transit peddler permit waivers for the Fun Fest vendor fair by Bliss Salon and Spa. Sarah is with us today. Would you like to address the council at this time?
So
If you would, please come to the mic. And just state your name for the record as well.
I'm Sarah Matron from Bliss Salon and Spa. When I came up with this idea, I brought it to multiple people that are a part of the city. And I guess I got a lot of ideas, but I don't like do them myself. And I always just thought, you know what, we get all these people from Rice Fest coming into town. What did they say, like 20,000 people? So I thought, what can we do to generate community support and things for the families to do in the town? So I came up with this idea of putting on a vendor fair. And with that, we had food vendors included. And I'm also planning on doing some bouncy houses. And we have a lady coming in, hopefully to do one day, which would just be Friday, some horseback rides for the kids. And so for the community, it's free of charge to come to the vendor fair itself. But for the bouncy houses and like some outdoor games for the kids, I was planning on doing like $5 wristbands just to help cover the cost, just because I'm just doing this all out of my own pocket. And mainly just family support at this point is what I was doing. I was hoping to get some other volunteers to help out, which we've had some calls, but I haven't been able to talk to them myself. So when I came up with this proposal, I admit, I really didn't know, I've had vendor fairs at my salon before, I've had one at the event center before, and I didn't realize, it never came to my attention that there was a peddler fee. Also because these peddlers, or if you want to call them peddlers, the vendors, they're more mom and pop. You know, they come up, they put up a 10 by 10 booth. Some of them probably take in $50, some probably take in, I don't know, a couple $100. They're not a big money-making thing for these families. It's more or less something that they enjoy doing on the side, I think, as a side job. So when I put this event together, I went to the city office and I did ask for Sam, and Sam was actually busy at the time. And so they asked me what I needed, and I said to them, I'm putting on this vendor fair. I just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row, make sure I'm doing everything the way I'm supposed to. Because I thought maybe there would have been a fee for the food permits, because I know I hear there's like a peddler fee for when the food trucks come into town. So I just wanted to make sure I had that all right. And then the the lady said, yeah, Sam was busy, and the comment was made, that, oh, you're on your own property? I said, yes, I'm on my own property, and they commented to me, you know what, we don't really know for sure, but we don't think we have a peddler's fee for that because you're on your own property, and, what was else said? You know, Rice Fest doesn't have fees, we don't have fees for the Labor Day, and we also don't have fees for the Village, Northwest, July 4. So I did not bring it any further. I talked to my husband about it, and I was like, oh, you know what, it's on my own property. I've taken it to the point where maybe the food vendors or whatever, I'll just double check. And then we kind of left it at that. And then I had a food vendor come to me one day, and she mentioned to me it's hard for her to speak because she understands English very well. She's Hispanic, and she understands English, but it's hard for her to speak it. So that's when it came to me about, she says, I think the city says we have to do a peddler's fee. And I was like, okay. I was thinking it was probably maybe a peddler's fee for the food vendors, but I didn't realize that the city at that time was asking for a peddler's fee for all my vendors. So I called Sam that day and just kind of went over it with him and said, hey, I realize now that there's a peddler fee, which I did not tell any of my vendors about because I didn't know. I did contact my food vendors that there might be a peddler fee, but my other vendors, I never mentioned it because I didn't even know that was a thing, to tell you the truth. And then Sam did mention to me that they do have a peddler's fee. And then it was brought to my attention that to not have a peddler's fee, let me do the point of being maybe in a community event. And then I told Sam, I said, I feel this is a community event. I said, what I would hope from this event is to grow from it, to get other businesses involved in it in the next couple of years. I hope to do this to be a yearly thing, if it goes well. From what I've seen on Facebook, I've had a lot of good reactions. I've had people message me, not from Sheldon, you know, asking what Rice Fest is. I know Rice Fest is a whole separate entity. And I even talked to Rob about it, and I was like, you know, I think that would even encourage them to grow even more there, to even get more people into town. So I guess I'm requesting a no peddler fee, being that these people don't make a lot of money at these events. And I would hope you guys could see this as a community event. Having everybody is welcome to come. And yeah, hopefully we can grow for it and maybe get other businesses involved.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple of comments, if I might. If you look at the ordinance 122.01 for purposes, purpose of this chapter is to protect residents of the city against fraud, unfair competition, intrusion into the privacy of their homes by licensing and regulating peddlers, etc. So we've had the peddler permit ordinance on the books for years. It's a very low fee. Several years ago, there was a fairly significant issue where someone wanted to set up on private property near downtown, near a restaurant, and it was a mess. And so we ended up getting involved in that. But we license peddlers all the time on private property. Renee Popke's would be an example. So she complies with the ordinance, and it hasn't been an issue. So the council has the ability to decide whether this is a community event or not. We may need to have Mike weigh in on whether it is, but we clearly built in an exception for Rise Fest and for STDC and for Village when we redid the ordinances a few years ago, because for some of them we weren't complying. Like Rise Fest, we had never done vendor permits, that I knew of, but we didn't have it in the ordinance. So when we updated the code, we addressed that, and we brought forward a resolution that made it clear that that was a community event, and they are a nonprofit. So, you know, and to your point, they do charge for the events, but anyway, this is ultimately up to the council. So I realize that there's some frustration over this, but I've asked in the office, I don't know who said what you said they said, but that's not what I've gotten from staff, and it is what it is. I think we just move forward, but I think it's very important to know that we got a project that's happening too, and with all the rain, I don't know that the project's going to be done. So I don't want hard feelings over that, but that's in a contract, and that may overshadow this.
I feel
So
like with the street out front, it's one street. People could still go around. Jeff did talk to, I believe it was Ryan Canoy at the school to okay if we would need extra parking, would it be okay if they would use the school parking lot, if need be. And in general, like I don't think having that one road in front of my salon, it really doesn't stop people from gaining access to my salon. And that's not, I don't think the issue at hand here. The issue at hand more is the peddler's fee. Being it is a 40 vendors or so that I have coming in. I feel it's very comparable to what the city does on Labor Day, if not maybe even more. I don't know how many of the vendors come into the event, but I just see it also as like, if we want our community to grow and we want people to come to town to spend their money, you know, what I would hope you'd get from this is that you can grow off it and maybe add dates at every event. You know, Rise Fest is Friday, Saturday. I'm doing a Friday, Saturday, but down the road you could add something on Thursday, and then people are staying overnight, an extra night, and then you're getting more taxes at your motels, and it's something you grow from. And yeah, I just see it as anything that we can do to build this town and get our name out there to encourage people to want to come here and spend their money.
I have a question. When a food truck comes to town and sets up on someone's property, do they have to pay a fee?
they have to go through the licensing process. I mean, the fee is, I think, $25.
So I myself also did call the state of Iowa. I'm making sure that all the food vendors have done their proper licensing, and so she will be coming in on that day to make sure. So she asked me to give them all the names of all the vendors that will be there for food. She said the rest of the vendors have nothing to do with it. She said my vendor fair is small enough that if you have 10 or more food vendors, then they can compare that to a large fair per se. Because I'm smaller, she says you don't have to fill out any extra forms or anything, like the state does not mandate that. The only thing that they need to do is need to know who's having food, and that they can be inspected the day of. So she will be there to inspect them. So that part's all taken care of.
So, sir, I think you alluded during your explanation that you are financing this yourself.
I am.
So,
I'm not a nonprofit, but this is not any money-making thing on me. You know, it's been a lot of hours. I probably have contacted between 2 and 250 vendors. The biggest thing for me is, yes, you want local vendors, but if you want to get new people coming into town for events like this, you've got to get something new. And that was my idea, like, let's get other people involved, so that way they see this as a new, I think there's a lot of vendors in town all the time, like, you know, I know Brew House with them on, I've seen them at the event center before, like I said, I personally have had 2 of them, and I just never even realized, maybe I'm my bad, that there was a fee for these vendor fairs. And so I don't know if we've ever, if the city has ever gone to these vendor fairs and to make sure that they all had their peddler's permit. I have no idea. it was just brought to my attention to that gal that came in my salon that they said, oh no, this is a mandatory thing for every vendor, and that's when I was like, oh, that's when I called Sam, so I wanted to make sure that I had everything done right. And because it was a new event, my expenses for advertising is huge, just because I've never done it before. So you have, I've been advertising it now for 2 months, or just about 2 months. And bouncy houses are not cheap. You know, the insurance to have the stuff at my salon is costing, that costs you. And like, I'm sure my whole family will take the day off for 2 days to help me out with it. So it's definitely, I'm not a nonprofit, but it's not a profitable thing. It's more or less something to invest with the community.
So are you getting any pushback from any of the vendors on the $25 fee?
It would not be a $20 fee for me, because after Sam sent me the form, they want $100 because it's a 2-day event. So that's where it's getting really expensive.
Is that correct, Sam?
Because if it was a $25 fee, I probably would have added that to their vendor fee myself and let them know. But one, I didn't know about the 25, and then when they came back into the 2-day event, the form states it needs to be $100. And these people, some of them don't even make $100. I mean, I can see like food vendors making more money. Like your mom and pop, someone selling rock, someone selling crocheted items. Like, I just don't see them being able to afford something like that.
Any other question for Sarah?
No, thank you.
All right, we do have a public comments listed here. Is there any other public comments from anybody that want to address this issue? None, so. If we have no more questions, I'd like to move on here. And we have the resolution. Any comments that people want to make before we go into that? It's a one-time waiver. I guess I would be in favor of it if I were voting, just to give it a shot and see what happens. But I don't have that opportunity, so I leave it up to you guys, what you want to do with this. The resolution, and then we give the waiver for the permits.
I have a question.
Okay.
Just a quick question. You won't have anything in that green space north of your parking lot between there and the highway. That'll be completely open, right?
No,
there won't be anything in
my
there.
vendors will all be, I gotta get my directions straight here, will all be on the east side
Okay.
and the south side. And then we will also wrap around into the greenhouse area. And then we would mark off, we do have a small driveway that loops around from that street that's cut off and the other street. And then we would block that off so people could not drive in there.
So that green,
So there would
the
be
green
nothing-
space between
it'd
your
be
parking lot and the highway, that will be completely clear. There won't be
Yeah.
anything in there.
The two vendors would be on the parking lot itself, yeah. Nothing on the green. Nothing from the sidewalk on and nothing on that green space in front.
I just want to make one more comment, if I could, unless you had anything else. This is a difficult issue because several years ago, I approved a vendor permit. This is when Kurt was still here. I approved a vendor permit, and it was right near downtown and near an existing restaurant, and I really heard about it, and it became a big deal. So I just want all of you to be aware that there's a bigger picture here, and I'm not opposed to your event. I'm just saying that I would encourage you not to adopt this and automatically plan on doing it just like this next year, because you also have brick and mortar businesses that this ordinance is designed to protect. I don't know that this ordinance does a fantastic job of it, but it does do some, and it does help. But that's just something to be aware of as we move because this ordinance was just reviewed and redone 2 years ago. So to say that the ordinance is deeply flawed wouldn't probably be accurate, because we just did it together, and there was hang on a second, and there was there was discussion on it at the time, because it was came through that entire process for 3 readings. So that's all I have.
Okay. Sarah, you had another question?
Have you ever, as a city, ever gone to any of our local vendor fairs that we have hosted in all these years and double checked with people if they had the permit?
They're in the pavilion, so they don't need to. And they're at SCDC with the park, and they have an exemption for that. Can I speak, please? I have the floor. I don't mean to be irritable, but I'm trying to keep my thoughts on track here. So every year there's, SCDC, for example, has a memo that comes through every June on celebration days, and they get an exemption for all the vendors at that time. The school district and NCC, that was hit or miss. I told NCC, and especially the school district, I don't check for the sex offender registry. I don't do background checks, like schools really should be doing if they have things going on in their own grounds. So I thought that made sense to build in an exception, and we did that in ordinance. And the ordinance says the council can make those exceptions by resolution. So those are all clear community events. Yours has a community flavor, and it's ultimately up to our elected officials, not me, to make the determination. I just want you to be aware that this can be a difficult issue, because you may hear down the road from brick and mortar vendors. So my advice to you is, if you'd like to approve it, just approve it as a one-time thing, and say, by doing this, we're not promising that we're going to automatically do it next year, because we want to hear the feedback from how things went. That's my advice to you.
So have you guys gone, so nobody has ever really gone to, not every vendor fair put on by the city. I've been invited to many of them, and I know I'm from town. I have an aunt who almost comes to every vendor show here in town, and she's not from town, and she has never, ever been asked to fill out a peddler's permit. So I'm just wondering, just because it's at the pavilion doesn't mean it's put on by the city, because I had one there. I had a fashion show with vendors there at that time. So I'm just wondering, to what point do you, especially for these small vendors, to what extent do you say, hey, we checked out this vendor's situation and not this vendor's situation too, to make it all?
Our focus has been the vans and the door-to-door peddlers. That has been our focus of the
I was going to
ordinance.
say, this seems to me to be a little bit different, because you have somebody that's doing something on their own property. They're not going door to door. They're not setting up in front of a restaurant to sell food. I guess I'm struggling with the idea that how restrictive can we be to tell somebody what they can do on their own property?
And we don't license the folks that come into Hy-Vee and do sampling. I mean,
Yeah.
So you have code that has some exceptions built into it. But again, Renee Poppies, for example, when she understands that when you bring in a van that's coming in and they're right across the street from a Casey's that's selling pizza, that has an established process, that it's only fair to them to go through the process, and it works out pretty well. So I think it's just harder when you're dealing with 30 or 40 instead of 1, right? So.
All right, we had the question before us. There's a resolution. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we approve a one-time exemption from, and then re-review if there's another request next year.
Okay.
I would support that.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hens,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hamel,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Ostrop,
Aye.
All right. Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
And good luck.
All right, next item is consider request related to the pending sale of lots to Crystalline K Studio. Tanya, you want to speak to that?
Good afternoon. Tania Herrera with the SCDC. So in your agenda, you should see that we included the purchase agreement. I also wrote a memo for all of you to review, and then you should, as of this afternoon, be able to see the building plans for reference for this project. So Crystalline's proposal is a unique and exciting opportunity for our community here in Sheldon. Her studio has quickly grown, and there is a high demand that has obviously that calls for expansion in size and in service capacities for what she currently offers. She currently has 6 trainers. She's a trainer, instructor herself, but with having more space, she would be able to hold more classes simultaneously, to be able to bring in more people. This has created traction not only in our community, but it has brought in individuals from outside of Sheldon as well. And you'll see in the memo and in some of the included documents that some of the terms included in the deal are a $600,000 minimum assessment, an annual SCDC membership, just to conform to a long-term commitment to our community and compliance with the covenants for our standard with all of the lots in that area. The project brings an opportunity for Sheldon, but it also helps us with our priority to foster a thriving business environment for any new and existing businesses that we have here in Sheldon. And I believe, Sam, were you able to attach the minimum assessment agreement as well?
If you hit refresh, if you don't have it up already, it's there, so.
Perfect. So with that, what SCDC is requesting is a waiver for the payback obligation to the city for a total of just slightly over $21,000, and then the minimum assessment agreement to be approved as well. And Crystal Stiller is here as well, so her or myself are happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? I do have one. In terms of the payback, in terms of waiving the fee now and then based on the minimum assessment, what kind of a time frame are we looking at for recovering those? I mean, there has been it's never been a hard and fast rule, but at one time when I was on SCD, I think it was a 7-year payback that you would recover those. Is that correct?
I am not sure. I don't have the calculation.
Isn't that kind of been, Brad, you were on SCDC or
Yeah.
CPSC?
I believe that's what it's close to, but I don't remember the numbers we talked about.
Okay. Maybe we don't know then, I guess. But I guess that would be information I would like to know at some point, just what that payback would be. Not that I'm not throwing water on us or anything like that. I just wondered if where we're at with that.
We can gather that information and
Okay.
provide it.
Any other questions?
And the minimum assessment agreement is linked now, and that will be signed at closing.
Correct. And that is standard practice now for all of our most recent lot sales, and going forward, the minimum assessment will be signed at the time of closing, and it will take effect in January.
The structure of this transaction is almost identical to the Backyard Brew project, which is next door.
Okay.
Thank you.
The approximate valuation is still about $660,000, is that correct?
Correct.
And the schedule is still 2027?
Yes.
And we get first right to buy back too, correct?
Yes, there is a clawback provision in there that if construction is not substantially completed by May of 2027, then we do reserve the right to purchase a lot back for $1.
All right. Any other questions?
One question, how much we buy it back for? Do we get it back for $1?
Yes, we get it back for the $1, and they would cover the costs again for us doing that.
All right.
Anyone else? Okay, so we have a resolution
Yep.
approving,
Go ahead.
we have a resolution approving waiving the SCDC's reimbursement to the city for the lot sale, first of all.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Support.
further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Ostra. Aye. Hess.
Aye.
Snyder.
All right.
And the second resolution addresses the minimum assessment agreement of $600,000. Take a motion for that as well.
So moved.
I'll support
Okay.
with the question. I refreshed, and Exhibit B does not show up on the document.
Yeah, it's called,
This is on the agreement, right?
yeah, it's called purchase documents.
Yeah, I just opened that up, and then under B, there's nothing. I know I'm being a bit of a stickler here, but I just want to make sure
It
that we
is
get
here
down
in
the
mine.
road and we don't have documentation that says that they owe it to us.
It's underneath restriction of covenant, so it looks like the packet's a little bit out of order, but it's at the bottom, page 13
It's
of,
down at the bottom,
13 of 26.
and it states 600,000.
The estimated, if I might,
Yes.
the estimated property tax,
600,000.
the estimated tax on the property is $9,871.
Right.
Minus, annually, minus with a 600, based on a 700 and some $1,000 valuation. So,
And it's 21,000 that we're waiving, 21,000 and change, is that right?
how much are we waiving?
Yeah, so
Per lot or total?
we're talking less than 3 years then, right?
Well, if you look at the price of the lot, price of the lot was originally going to be $50,000 per lot.
No.
So you're looking at a $100,000 waiver, but,
So, all right. So we have we do, okay. Any further discussion on the second resolution? Roll call, please.
Hess.
Aye.
Snyder.
All right.
Hamel.
Aye.
Ostra. Aye. Eggers.
Aye.
Okay. We look forward to
Thanks for your patience.
seeing groundbreaking and...
It was well worth the wait.
Just a quick question. Somebody was in the store today telling me that, well, there's going to be a Sanborn sweat lodge, basically what I'm going to call it, but I mean, where you go in a hot room to lose weight? Is this similar? Is that what the sauna is going to be?
Yes. Well, so we already do heated classes.
Okay.
And so our
Okay.
room we heat 90 to 90 degrees. And so we offer 45-minute workouts in that 90-degree temp room. And so our future plan is to expand that, so we'll be able to have 2 rooms in this new building. One will be heated, and then we'll be able to offer unheated. And it's heated by infrared heat.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just using the room temp. We're just using a furnace to heat it up to 90, so we get a really good sweat. And so we do plan on having a sauna
Okay.
for you guys or whoever that wants to come and watch your football game and sit in a sauna. We plan on offering that. And so we're really excited, but yes, it's heated.
Okay, so he was right then, and
Yes.
I didn't realize
So
that it was
you can
tied
come
to
and
it.
join us now. We're operating that.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're awesome. So, yeah, Chantel
good, thank you. All right, let's move on to reports here. Larry, with Perspective Insurance, is here. Give us an update. I think he has good news.
Larry from Perspective, thank you. Thanks for having me. In your packet, of course, is some documents that I put together on the renewal of the property casualty and the group health insurance. Few changes that are on the property casualty are right at the top of the property. Shows a 1%, or excuse me, a 2% wind and hail deductible on the buildings with a cap of $300,000. So if we had a major disaster throughout town and hit multiple buildings, they'd cap that 2% deductible of $300,000. The rest of the policy hasn't changed very much. We did look at increasing the cyber coverage. Sam and I talked about that from $250,000 to $1 million coverage. In today's market, there's lots of ransom and extortion claims on public entities, and we thought that was a good move there.
So what does that actually cover, Larry?
So the cyber liability?
Yeah.
So it's pretty extensive. The big things that are in cyber world today in claims are what we just said: ransomware, ransom, extortion. Someone calls, locks up the city system, says, "Send us $500,000. We'll give you your access back."
So the insurance would provide the $500,000 for
Correct.
the, okay.
So they'd send in
That's interesting.
a computer forensic team and try to get to the bottom of that, try to get that back without paying a ransom. But if they had to pay a ransom to get your information back, they would. Another thing that's kind of common in that market, it would be some wiring of money, and
Yeah, we've had multiple cases of that genre, and the first question always is, what type of coverage do you have? And it's usually little or nothing.
Correct.
And the money is usually long gone. But it is a very dangerous cyber environment.
Correct. And so, to give you a little further, you're going to wire somebody some money, and they send an email that says, "Oh, here's our new bank information." You send it. Unfortunately, it's gone. There's no way to pull it back.
Right.
So there's coverage in there for that. There's coverage in there for multiple things in cyber. Some notifying the third party of a breach, those kinds of things. So it's pretty extensive.
Thanks, Larry. I just was trying to figure out whether, because I know ransom is usually the big deal.
Those are the big two: ransom and wiring.
And this coverage, we're covered for $1 million in that.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. The other thing Sam and I looked at were, and his attachment here is, how can we reduce some things, save some money? So we got some deductible options, alternate deductible options. That was one of the pages. It saves enough money to, if you had one loss in a category. So if you got a $1,000 deductible, if you go to 5, you're going to save $4,000. If you have more than one claim, you lost money. So it doesn't seem like there's enough money, there's enough savings there yet to change the deductibles, so we felt we should leave those there. I did want to, we've mentioned this before, I wanted to note that on the work comp, the base rate on the work comp is $116,371, and your premium is $33,615, which is 28.8% of the state-based rates. That is unheard of. I do not have another entity, employer of any type that has that kind of rate in work comp. And some of that is justifiable to what's called the modification factor, which looks at the history of the city and its losses. And that doesn't happen overnight. That's a 3-year process that they look at of claims in that 3-year window, and they rate the city based on those losses and give you a credit. That's an acknowledgement to everyone here. Safety programs, keeping employees safe, wearing the right safety equipment, doing the safety programs that we need, and great job to everyone. So, as you can see on the bottom, I kind of put the breakdown of the rate changes. Overall, we're just up a little over 9%, but about 8.65% of that is due to property value increases, vehicle value increases, and the change to cyber liability. So really, we're looking at less than a 1% increase on the insurance overall from the ICAP side, and then of course a major decrease on the work comp of 33%. So, any questions on the property and casualty?
Apparently not.
Okay. With that, I'm going to move on and talk about the group health. So a couple attachments you have there, and it kind of gives you a couple paragraphs, but the basis of it is that the deductible is for a single is $7,500 and $15,000 for a family. That's going to $8,050 for a single and $16,100 for the family. However, you do a buy-down program for the employee down to $4,500 for an individual, $9,000 for a family. That buy-down will stay the same, so in effect, the employees have the exact same health programs they did before. Okay. As far as the rates, Wellmark's rates were very favorable on the renewal, and of course, with the deductible going up, with that buy-down program, you have a little bit more expense for those people that hit that max deductible. So on the second page here, I kind of laid out some numbers of what that looks like, and I increased that by a substantial amount of the buy-down program claims. You'll see that, you know, that's an estimate. That number can be higher than that. It can be lower than that. But overall, looking at a educated estimate, overall health premium 0.42%, so less than 1% increase for 2025-26.
That is good news.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Larry? Thank you for being here today and for your work for us on behalf of the city. And I just want to reiterate what Larry said too, Todd, to you and your staff, and Eric and your department too. We appreciate the concerns you have for safety and for keeping that modification rate down.
That's everybody. That's the fire department, the ambulance department, city offices. That's the team.
Everyone.
That really is a great job.
Anyway, so keep it up.
Good job, man.
So, thank you, Perspective Insurance. We appreciate your partnership.
Very good.
Thank you. Thanks, Larry.
All right, thanks, Larry.
Ramp on the way out of here.
All right, moving on then to staff and council comments. Sam, anything further from you? No? Todd?
Thank you.
I see the water tower is going ahead full bore, looks like.
Yeah, we took it out of service yesterday. Some of you may have noticed a little blip, but it's out of service, so we're just running on the east one. So they have 30 working days, or no, 30 calendar days to hammer through that, and they intended taking most of them. So we did authorize, I guess I should say, we did authorize 7 days of work, 7 days a week for work. We don't always do that, but in this case, they need to get that baby to go on and back out. They just have a later start date on Sundays.
All right. Tanya, anything further from you? Chief, anything from you? Okay. Ange?
No, thank you.
Micah?
No.
Council to my left.
Go ahead, Ken.
Just a reminder that grass dump. Eric and I have found a few people the last couple of, a lot of tree limbs and stuff dumped there. Just a reminder to the public, once again, it's a grass dump, leaf and grass, not limbs. And Eric was right on the spot.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ken. And actually, I think we're gonna put some new signage in there. The board we have into that dump is adequate and readable, but there's so much information on there. So we're gonna get a smaller sign in both English and Spanish that says essentially grass only or some, so they're on.
All right.
Yes, I have a couple things. I was approached by a couple pickleball players, since the school tore out the parking lot, and both sides of 19th Avenue are no parking. They were wondering if the side of the pickleball courts, though, if those no parking signs could be taken out while the construction's at the high school, so they can park closer to the pickleball. I said I would bring it up to the council and go from there. So I've done my duties. Just like last meeting, the church ladies. Also Saturday, we're having a training fire, 415 West Park Street, Highway 18 will be detoured. So follow the marked detour, which will go down the old highway to 16th Street, out around Marsh, back to Highway 18. So
Brad, does that include 2 buildings or just 1?
one.
Okay.
Permit only allows one shingle building.
Okay.
So we've done 2 this year, and this is our only shingle building. So
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Hope to be done by noon.
So the building further back in the
No.
lot will stay there?
We'll stay there.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Council to my right?
Nothing.
All right, I just have one thing I'd like to share. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but we are in the presence of a published author in this room. The latest issue of the June issue of the Cityscape, which is available online and coming in print next week, we think, has an article published by our city manager, Sam Quaker. From peanuts to $700,000, how Sheldon exponentially grew interest earnings. He came up with the idea several years ago and implemented it here. With his connections around the state, is getting the word out. Other communities are now taking advantage of that as well. But I want to be the first to congratulate you.
Thank you.
For that idea, first of all, and for the willingness to share it. And as a result, I have a little gift, a little prize for you.
You know what Jennifer does for a living, don't you?
Yes, I do. Hide in the office, so.
I can leave them in the office.
Have $100,000 on Sam, thanks to Sam.
Thank you.
Yes, pass it down. If the rest of you would like to grab a candy bar on the way out, feel free to do so.
Is it in Cityscape? Because I haven't seen this one.
This is on the online edition.
Okay.
So it should be coming up in the magazine next week. But we appreciate that, Sam. Thank you very much. And then, so that's all I have. And then I would like to have a motion that we move into closed session.
So move.
Anyone support? Thank you all.
Aye.
Take her on that. Right there.
What? Free board? What? Free board?